Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to this talk all about how retention plays a huge part in retail resilience. So my name is Dan. I'm the product marketing manager at Ometria. And today I'm very, very lucky and very excited to be joined by two wonderful people from two very, very different brands. So it's going to be really interesting to hear their perspectives on this topic today. So before we crack on with the fireside chat, I'm going to hand over first to Ntola to tell us a bit about herself and the brand she works for.
Hi everyone, I'm Ntola. I'm the trading director at Emma Bridgewater. So for those of you who don't know who Emma Bridgewater is, it's an iconic British brand that's been around for 30 plus years. So founded by Emma Bridgewater, and we make and manufacture beautiful product for the home, pottery in Stoke-on-Trent. So my role is I look after the commercial sales channels, so e-commerce, marketplace, wholesale stockists over 500. And we have 3 lovely stores, one in Bicester, one in Clarks, and one in Stoke.
Thank you, Ntola. Really great to have you here. And handing over to Alex.
Hello, I'm Alex. I'm the SVP of Marketing at Secret Sales. I'm hoping people have heard of Secret Sales, but for those that haven't, I've got a bit of a job to still do because I look after all the awareness as well. So, little pitch. I hope everyone shops in it after this session because it's awesome. But we're an off-price marketplace who act like a retailer. We partner with brands, whether it's via the licensed resellers or directly, to be always up to 70% off and allow for great discounts across top brands in the market, such as ASOS, Kurt Geiger, Puma, Nike, you name it. We've got over 700 brands on the website and 300 across our international presence as well. We are a stockless marketplace. We don't have any warehouses. All the fulfillments are done from the brands themselves, which really helps our business model around circular sustainability. However, from a front-end perspective, it's completely shoppable like a normal retail website with all the customer service, all the front-end fulfillment done as a normal website. So yeah, please check us out, secretsales.com. You won't regret it.
Thanks so much, Alex. Yeah, very, very different brands. So it's going to be a really interesting session, I think. So we're going to open the floor, and all the questions are for both panelists. So we'll hopefully hear perspectives from Secret Sales and Emma Bridgewater. But yeah, just to open the floor, I guess, why do you think retention plays such an important role in the resilience of a retailer?
Do you want me to go first? Okay. I think, look, retention is such, let's call it what it is. It's difficult, isn't it? Right? I think it's fair to say there are some harder parts of marketing, some easier parts of marketing, and true retention is difficult. It's difficult to understand what the customer actually wants, how your website is perceived, how your product is perceived, and how it's marketed. And that in itself requires a lot of resilience as marketers to really lean into the positives and the negatives. So I guess it's a flip side of things, really. It's like there's an element of resilience and relevance in terms of how to approach retention for your respective businesses as well. But also when things do get difficult, understanding that customer, actually having true advocacy and retention across your cohorts, that's what will get you through the difficult times. And whilst there's always a role to play in every component of marketing, right? It isn't just a one size fits all. It's such an important part here and today, especially over the last 18 months, to truly understand how to retain a customer rather than some proxy metrics on a dashboard, and make true experience changes to those to drive forward through a difficult period. But yeah.
I think it just goes back to the basics of your brand. It's why did you start your business? What is your proposition? And the reason why brands grow is because of the customers. So really, in these times where we have an economic downturn and the UK market is struggling, international's okay, you need to hone back as to why did the customers fall in love with your brand, and how do you get them to come back? So I think, for us, our business is 76% of our customers are existing customers, and a very large cohort of them are true Emma Bridgewater fans. So we need to acknowledge them, nurture them, and remind ourselves of why the business started, and be inspired as to how we develop our product. And yeah, it's really tough out there, but those are the customers you have on your database. So they should be actually the easiest to nurture and to bring back to your brand, to your website, to your shop.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think, really when we talk about retention is all about the customers, your existing customer base, really capitalizing on who you've already got and who's already loyal. So it's really interesting to hear that. I guess when we think about retention and customers, do you guys see that kind of customer trends and behaviors, change your retention strategy, and maybe how would you see that impacting how you go about trying to retain them?
So
I'll
I
let you go
think,
first.
yeah, go first. So I think a big part for us has been understanding. So we're a B Corp business, so all about people, but also about profit. So the people side of things, when you're thinking about our customer base, is what's important to them now. So honing into that community. Obviously, they love and want beautiful product, but what do they want it for now? So we saw during the pandemic where the home market was booming, and everyone was having a good time at home with our product. But it's also thinking about, okay, what matters now in a cost of living crisis? It's all about consumer moments. So whether it's Mother's Day, Father's Day, gifting, weddings are back on after a long time. So we're listening to what's going on in the market and just, speaking to the customer in that way as to what product will resonate with them, I think is really key.
My turn. So I think what's been really good for me as a marketer is the realization over the last 18 months within the wider business, retention isn't just marketing's job, right? I think there'll be a number of people in this room, you've all been sat there in different marketing roles, or maybe earlier on in your careers and you've got your KPIs around retention with the email team, retention in the marketing team, Look, the reality is it's everyone's job within the business, and over the last 18 months in particular has allowed us to really lean into that understanding and that sort of more symbiotic behaviour, cross-departmental piece around what actually drives true advocacy, true loyalty and retention. It's actually easier for me to retain a customer if I get better products on the site, shock horror, right? So look, pitch time again, sorry, there's going to be a few of these throughout the course of the conference. We recently launched ASOS in River Island, some really good prices on our website. Now, the reality is, that has made my job a lot easier this year because I've got some really high quality, low ASP products that people are filling their baskets with, and people are coming back because we've got newness refreshes, greater category exposure. And because of that understanding of the wider SLT and how that works into the new business, the business development, and the role that they play as part of retention, reactivation, all the good customer hygiene metrics, that's been really key over the last year and a half, that understanding of a joint responsibility of the business, not just what I'm doing from a front-end communications point of view or a smart automations point of view. It's only one piece of a wider puzzle, and it makes things a lot easier when the business realizes that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. I was maybe going to risk an off-piece question that isn't on the cue cards, just because you raised an interesting point there.
For the first question, so that might be I don't mind.
Well, I guess I wondered, Ntola, is it similar for Emma Bridgewater where you find that, new product launches or kind of maybe new product ranges? I know, obviously, you guys have done a lot for the coronation and that kind of thing. So do you find that those injections of kind of new stock also kind of help retention efforts in a similar way?
Yeah, Alex is so right. The whole business needs to be signed in as to what is the purpose of the brand and the product and what do you need to drive it. So our product, merchandising, design teams, they want to know the customer feedback. They want to know what's resonating, what's driving the sales, and that is how they're creating the newness. So we have a VVIP and collectors club. So these are our most loyal customers. And we know that, launching certain products to them is very key. As a thank you, as a nod to say, we appreciate how much you spend with us, how much you love the brand. This is our nod to you. And this is, similar with the Royal product that we launched, there were certain products that we created that were only available to our collectors club as well at a higher price point, which they appreciated. But that is it's so true. In these times, you need a balance between your core and continuity, your bread and butter items, but also you need that seasonal newness for people to with our product. It's all about adding to your collection. So if you're just starting out, you're building on the colors, the patterns for the various moments of your life. So that's a really top tip of everyone being signed up to not just the marketing team, but the product, the design, merchandising, distribution, IT. Everyone needs to be aligned as to how important the customer is and how they play in that role.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that, because I know that wasn't on the cards. Also, it's interesting you talking, this is an unrelated side note, but you mentioning bread and butter products, because I'm pretty sure I have a plate from Emma Bridgewater that says bread and butter on, which I know isn't what you mean, but I definitely own that. So this is a question that I'm really hoping a lot of people in the room, I'm sure will have asked themselves, but it's no stranger that obviously retention is a really important part of the strategy, but we are still given growth targets. People want to grow their database. That is still a really key KPI for a lot of brands. How do you kind of balance that fine line between retention and acquiring new customers?
So yes, ultimately we have to grow the business, and we also need to be profitable at the same time. So acknowledging that our existing customer base is important. So customer lifetime value, repeat purchase is very key for us. But we also know we need to acquire new customers who potentially have never heard of the brand to drive that long-term growth. And it's different by market. So we have a strategy where we're focusing on the UK, USA, and China. And in China, it's all about customer acquisition. So 80% is new customer base. So we need to focus on that. And the spend is going towards that area. And in the US, 56% of our customer base around that is existing. So we still need that new customer to drive our business. And then in the UK, it's around 70% is existing customers. So we know that, customer lifetime value is really important. And we know the customers who we also acquire through referral are also very valuable to us. So it's a fine line, isn't it? Because, if it wasn't about bottom line profit, you could probably sit comfortably and say, we're happy, just treading along, but you need both. So you need your existing customers to come back. So a reason to buy, seasonal newness, new product launches, etc., but also surprising and delighting new customers to come on board. So it's that old age. We're challenged with that, and it's very expensive to acquire new customers at the moment with costs going up. So finding creative ways of hopefully our existing customer base telling their friends and someone else about our product is probably a quick win for us as a business.
Alex?
So I'm actually a PPC head at heart, so I'm all about new customer acquisition, and I wish earlier in my career I'd taken some of the retention and the customer lifetime value pieces a lot more seriously, because you end up hitting a brick wall about 3 to 5 years into a model that doesn't truly understand, are people going to come back, when they're going to come back, why they're coming back, what to do to influence it. So, but they're not mutually exclusive, the two things. But I think a trap for a lot of marketers to try and avoid is if you're in an earlier stage of where your business development is, like we are at the moment, right? We're about 3 years in. It'd be very easy for me to be like, do you know what? We're going to go on a complete acquisition strategy. We're going to be very much focused around our CPL campaigns, what we can do from an influencer through social. We're doing all those things, but at some point we're going to run out of money if we keep doing that and that alone. And focusing on both of those things and place them with equal importance, it is really critical. It comes back to what I was saying at the start. Retention's harder. Like, it's harder to understand truly why somebody shops on your platform, retain them, and have true loyalty coming back to you. It's easier to a degree if the cash is there to go out and acquire somebody, although obviously a lot of specialisms involved in that as well. So it's about not shying away from it earlier on if it is harder, and making sure that the serious strategies and time invested into it the same that there would be in terms of the new customer acquisition side of things too.
Cool, thank you both. Yeah, I think, no different to, I'm sure, how a lot of people here feel, Alex, that they put a huge amount of weight, especially at the beginning, into growing their database and acquiring new customers. But really, really interesting to hear that retention, is one of those things that people need to remember from kind of early on. So when we think about retention, there are definitely elements of it that can be heavily personalized, and personalization, I'm sure everybody knows here, is the key to a lot of success in marketing. It's really at the heart of what we do at Ometria. So how are some ways that maybe you guys are personalizing your retention strategies?
I think you might be better than me at this one.
So we work with Ometria, so that's a plug. So they've been really good in helping us looking at our key cohorts and segmenting the messaging. I've got an amazing email marketing exec who understands our business and our customer and thinking about what those journeys look like. And I think it's about being agile and adapting. So, one customer automated flow may have worked last year, but if your customer behavior is different, if you're trying to get them to come back earlier, then you have to make adjustments. So personalizing the messaging, depending on it, if they are Collectors Club members or non-Collectors Club members. It's also about messaging, is what is it you're trying to say? Because I think sometimes there's email fatigue. as well when you're communicating, or what are you saying on social? So all about consumer moments. I'm a big advocate for looking in the world and what's actually happening, what's resonating with the consumer, and then tapping that into obviously your core values. And does that matter to your brand? If so, then talk about it. If not, then rethink how you're going to communicate with the customer. So yeah, we love our email marketing. It's really important for us. Obviously linking that with our social channels so the messaging is coherent. But yeah, it's a challenge, but we love it.
We've still got quite a bit of a journey to go on this one, to be completely open. I'm not going to be like, yeah, Secret Sales, well, Secret Sales is amazing. Yeah, Secret Sales is amazing. But like, there is,
We know.
Yeah, but there is still, like, we're only 3 years old, right? There's still a load of things that we're adopting, or we're looking into what our defined strategy is around. And personalization, to what degree of personalization is one of those questions at the moment. Do we go down the fully personalized product route? Is that one of our USPs? Do we work with the right tech partners and allow for that customer experience to do so? I would love to get there, but then there's probably the more pragmatic CFO route, which is like, it's going to cost X amount. Da, da, da. So look, personalization for us and how that's going to be used to help with retention and loyalty is kind of yet to be defined. But for me, it's about, similar to what Ntola was saying, it was about, okay, the relevant cohort and segmentation, the right data fields, to the right dynamic content being pulled through, all those sort of things are the route that we're sort of taking at the moment to allow for better and more relevant comms. I do think, though, the way that the market's going, it's almost like a pre-requirement, though, for a lot of brands. Like, there's the expectation that as a consumer, my content will be received like this, my marketing will be received like this, versus some of the broadcast and the broader communication strategies that are being tailored to at the moment. So I don't think this is necessarily going to be how we succeed in retaining a customer or reactivating a customer. It's going to be a prerequisite to it. If we don't do this correctly, the stuff that we're going to do on top of it is going to fail, because it's going to need to be a foundation of the requirements moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that's such an interesting point, and actually that's why it's so great having both of your brands, because Emma Bridgewater, obviously really long established, kind of very familiar household name, having a newer company where actually you're like, maybe we're not personalizing as much as we could right now, but we kind of know it's important, is really hopefully interesting and insightful for a lot of the brands in here. This is a question I was most excited about because I think we'll have quite interesting answers, and I'm going to start with you, Alex. So obviously incentivizing loyalty is a really great way to kind of drive repeat purchases. I'm interested to know how you guys are using things like incentives or discounts or other types of offers to really kind of encourage people within your retention strategy.
I'll try not to say too much in this one because I've got very strong thoughts on it. Discounts, obviously used as quite a dirty word within the marketing world. It's not. It depends on how you do it and how sustainable it can be. Like, our whole business is based on the right level of discounts with off-price product, right? Everyone wants a discount. We have this concept of, are you a price discounter, non-price discount? I would challenge anyone in this room that hasn't bought something on discount in the last week, right? I myself wouldn't say I'm traditionally a discount price bargain hunter. Everything I shop is on discount. It has a role to play. It's here to stay. And that's why I love the business that I work for, because we've found where this is going to be only building with people's off-price stock over the next couple of years or so. It's here, right? I think, again, going back to discounts, a dirty word. You go back to some of the quadrants of loyalty, mercenary loyalty is discounting. It doesn't need to be mercenary. It just needs to be done in a way that is sustainable to your brand, is done in the right vernacular for your brand image, and is done in a way that you're comfortable with doing it. So, discounting is very important to loyalty, in my opinion. It's just about how it's executed and is done in a way that is relevant to the brand positioning of who you're working for, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we had from the earlier presentations where he said this is the marketing calendar, and there is discounting in there, and it doesn't matter whether you're in the US where it's all about coupons. In China, it's all about coupons. And then here it's about discount codes. It is important, I guess, for a business to have longevity and be sustainable. You sort of have to build that, have what is your margin target that you're looking to achieve, and acknowledge everyone is aligned that there's certain times that you do discount. But, we've tried various things where our referral program offers a free mug or offer a discount, and then you test it and see which one works. That's one way of doing that. But Obviously, we know the best time to acquire, customers is sale period, which will be coming up soon. And honestly, I've seen high-end brands, on their marketplaces, they offer discounts as well. The brands themselves say they don't, but on those platforms they do. So it's a love-hate relationship, but it's a necessary, I won't say evil. It's a necessary thing for that, ecosystem of being a brand to function.
Do you see that in the US quite a lot? A lot of people that say, no, we don't discount. They're in some sort of Nordstrom point-based system, right? There's always double discount, double point bases over in the US.
Exactly. They're just dressing it up as something else. So I think it's just knowing when are you going to activate that discounting activity? Who are you going to launch it first with? Is it your loyal customers? Because you're acknowledging that you've spent all this money with us and we're going to give you the discount first. I think it's just understanding how you communicate that with your customer and you're doing it the right way and not trashing your margin.
Yeah, I think you both said some really interesting points there. You both mentioned the word sustainable, which I think is such a good thing to keep in mind with discounting. If it works for your brand and you can afford to sustain that and actually have that as part of your strategy, I don't think there is anything wrong with discounting. And as you both said, it could be a way to get people through the door. And then once they're kind of shopping with you through that, say, initial discount, you then impart your retention strategy and kind of keep them coming back. And also, as you pointed out, Ntola, with your kind of free mug, discounts always have a kind of connotation for being money off, but actually incentives can be lots of different things. They could be free products, they could be, percentages off, actual money off. So lots and lots of different routes to take there. When we think about retention, so obviously I know Joe Turner did that wonderful Foot Asylum presentation earlier, and he was talking about how, context is king, but data is still a really important thing. We all measure it, we all have KPIs, and data, is really kind of pertinent to Ometria. We really love digging into it and making sure that, it pulls insights that people can see on the platform very easily. With KPIs towards retention, are there any specific metrics that you're measuring to kind of see the success of your retention campaigns?
I'm happy to say this one. I'd look at far too many metrics for my own good.
You love data.
Yeah, I love data. Isn't it? So it was like a little jive, like, you love data. Look, I look at everything from your existing customer mix to your different cohort reactivations over periods back to when they were acquired. The reality is, it's easy to get absorbed into too much data when you start looking at the customer hygiene of your business. And it sounds cliche, it is whatever fits you for your business in terms of what you should be looking at. I always say, if you're looking at something and you're not going to drive any action at it, what's the point? You just filled up a bit of a waste of hours pulling a dashboard together, pulling a report together. So look, we look at the reactivation of our customers based on, again, as I said, when we acquired them. I'll use that as a bit of a North Star in terms of the health of the customer. Then there'll be different work streams off the back of that in terms of things we can do cross-departmental to influence some of those. Or if something's getting worse or better, we can lean into that as a senior leadership team and understand, is there more operational conversations that need to be had? But there's a lot of places where that's not relevant. I've had it before where, again, I've looked at that level of data and I'd be like, cool. That's nice. Then you move on to the next thing. So it's important to understand how you're going to action some of the stuff that you're looking at from a KPI point of view. But yeah, I look at probably far too much.
I think it's a similar thing is I always ask the question, so what? So you look at the data, why does it matter and what are you going to do with it? So I think data and context is king in terms of looking at the data and what are you trying to get from it and how does that help your business? I mean, we're seeing a surge of loads of businesses investing in not just data analysts, but data scientists, where they're analyzing the data, but also analyzing behavior of the customer within that data as well. And why is that important? Because you're trying to understand, well, from that customer that you acquired last year, how often have they come? How often are they shopping? How many items are they putting in their basket? AOV, is it stable or not? What's happening to the various cohorts? And then making decisions based on that, saying, what are we going to do about it? So I'm a fan of data, but I always say to the team, okay, so what? Why does it matter? And how is it going to influence the decisions that we're making in the future for the brand and, based on product and what we're trying to achieve? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really, and that could almost be applied to retention strategy, but really to any strategy. So, use the KPIs that are important to your business and that you're being measured on, but only pull them and look at them if you're going to do something with them, or if they're actually giving you information and actions to take. Don't just pull data and reports for the sake of it. We've got 3 minutes left, so I'm actually going to jump to our very last question. I'm hoping that after the end of this session, we all can say, yes, retention is a secret to retail resilience. What are some maybe parting words of advice that either of you would have for anybody out here who's thinking, right, I really want to bolster or kind of build my own retention strategy?
I'll go first. So I think it's really, I always think, in threes, sort of like my mantra. It's thinking about, okay, how do you want to retain that customer? How are you going to re-engage that customer? How are you going to reactivate them? And just being flexible. I think this is a time where businesses, brands have to be agile. They have to adapt to what's happening in the market. Don't be afraid to try different things with your customer base. If you've got a customer base, that's the first point of call for you, and just reacting to what's going on in the market. And your existing customer base is exactly that. It's what you currently have. It's there. So do something with it to re-engage them, to drive repeat purchase or even referrals. And looking also what's going on in your social community. So we now have, from the marketing team, they're looking at what the customers are saying on the social platforms. We're also looking at, not just the product reviews, but also the product reviews that were negative. So going back to that and responding to the customer saying, how can we help? Because if we can flip that customer, to help them and resolve that problem, well, that's a win for us, because then they'll come back. So I think really just being agile, acknowledge your customer base, go into the detail of, what percentage of that are driving the majority of your sales, and maybe focusing on getting them to come back. And then obviously, you need to acquire new customers as well. But I think what you have on your database is there, it's sure. So that's the easiest possibly to reactivate and engage.
Cool. I'd probably split it into two areas. Similar to what Ntola was saying in terms of understanding what's actually going on. What are 5 of the reasons people hate shopping on your website or with your business? And what are 5 reasons that people love shopping with your website and your business? And then create some strategies, whether it's within department or cross-business, off the back of that. So that's the first thing, which is it's the human interaction of what's actually going on, the negatives and the positives, and creating some planning around it. On the flip side, it'd be then looking at the data, which is what are the, again, I'll stick with 5s rather than 3s in this one. It sounds all right. What are like the 5 best pieces of data? What are they saying? How do you understand it? Do more of it? And what are the 5 worst pieces of data, right? So you might see, for example, I'm making up a trend at the moment, that you have a VIP segment that's defined as they spend more than £1,000 over a 12-month rolling basis with you. You might find there's an attrition rate that's gone from like 20% to 25%. That 5% attrition rate, depending on the size of your customer base, is worth a material amount of money. And creating a strategy of understanding why that attrition rate is worse than it was 12 months ago, and a strategy around that would have materially higher monetary value to you in the business, rather than some more of the micro optimizations, which might be where you're sort of spending your time at the moment for some of the retention pieces. So it's about true meaningful change, but understanding it with the data and what it's saying, positive and negative, and then from a human point of view, what are your customers actually saying that's good and bad about you, and what you're going to do about it.
Amazing. And we're on perfect time. I cannot thank you both enough. That that flew by, right? It went so quickly. I could have just sat talking to you for hours. I hope you all realize retention is the secret, and all the power of retention, all the information, all the customers, all the data, you already have it. Just kind of leverage it as much as you can. And Ntola, Alex, can't thank you enough. Thank you everybody for coming.